What's up, guys? I just here at work, taking a little bit of a break, pulling up the old Jeep, and over the last week or so, re-listening to Mr. J.W. Longmire's podcast and The Wrecking Yard, and I'm thinking about one episode that talked about brand loyalty, vehicle brand loyalty, and it really is a funny thing about how some people can just fall into it. You know what I mean? Like the reasons why some people get brand loyal. You know, some people their dad drove Buicks, their granddad drove Buicks, his granddad's dad drove Buicks, and now here they are driving Buicks. Right? Like it's not even a question in their mind why they're to buy anything besides a Buick. You know what I mean? You know, my dad had Corvettes. He had 2000s, a 69, an 87. And through that time, I just fell in love with Corvettes, you know. There's that your dad had one, your grandfather had one, and his father had one. And it reminded me of everybody has legitimate reasons why they become brand loyal. You know, I got thinking about my godfather Jimmy. He growing up, I remember him having one car, one truck. It was the old early GMC Jimmys, first generation small ones, right? Yes, 15s I believe it was. Yeah, a two-door Jimmy. And then at some point in the early 90s, he was in a wreck. And at the time he had a Ford Explorer, I believe he had. And it was, from what he said, it was a pretty bad wreck. But he was able to walk away. And he chalked it up to the truck. And ever since then, he's refused to buy anything but a Ford. So he became loyal to that brand because, as far as he's concerned, the truck saved his life. And I can't say that it's unreasonable. You know what I mean? And some other legit reasons, I would say. You know, I'm, like I said, got a Grand Cherokee right now. This is my third Jeep. My dad's had about 6 of them, right? Before I even got my license, he had, I think it was an 87 or an 88 Cherokee Sport, the 2-door. When he sold that friggin' truck, that Jeep, it had 270,000 miles on it. Those 4 liters will go fucking forever, dude. Oh, change the oil, you know, fresh coolant in there, thing will run you forever. Oh, this thing friggin', you could see through the friggin' floorboards. The steering wheel would bounce up and down when you're driving down the highway. Right? And he sold it to somebody in his building, one of the engineers, for like $500. This was like 97. Dude drove that thing for another 50,000 miles before the entire body roached and rusted off the friggin' frame. And then he took that and dropped that friggin' 4-liter into a dune buggy. And last time I saw him, which was probably about 5-6 years ago, the thing was still friggin' running and kicking like it was nobody's business. Alright? Then he had a 99 Cherokee, the 4-door. And then 2001, traded that in and he got his first Grand Cherokee. Right? 3 Jeeps before I graduated high school. And then he had 3 more Grand Cherokees after that. Right? So, and in that time I had bought my 06 Unlimited, my LJ. I had no intentions of ever selling that. I drove that Jeep off the friggin' lot at Bueller and Better with 14 miles on it. I drove that thing from Jersey to Texas and back, down, back, down, back, down. And then on my way back, I drove up to Bowling Green, Kentucky, drove to the Corvette Museum, drove back to Jersey, through Pennsylvania, and from Jersey to Florida and back. Friggin', I had some friggin' trips in that friggin' Wrangler. And for those of you who don't know, if you've never done it before, never realized, but the trunk space of an LJ, you could perfectly fit 2 full-size kegs side by side. They fit perfectly between the back seat and the tailgate. You know, for future reference. But I put over 150,000 miles on that Wrangler, and it enjoyed every single minute of it. It got about friggin' like 9 miles to the fucking gallon, but it living the dream. And then I got an 07 Liberty. Some guy offered to buy. He was hounding me for months to buy my Wrangler, and I was like, nah. Eventually, he ran into me at a Walgreens or a Walmart or something, and he had cash, 11 grand, $100 bills on my front seat. He put his money where his mouth was, right? And that's when I got my 07 Liberty. I wanted to hold on. The thing was a friggin' dog. I swear, it was like a friggin' Sandy car. But I finally got it running right. And I wanted that to be my next project. Because I inherited my grandmother's Toyota Camry. Same year. Great car. I put 200,000 miles on that car itself. But I wanted to turn that into Project Liberator. Right? And financially, it just would have been a friggin' bad financial decision. So, you know, sold it for what I bought it for and called it a day. And that was 2016. And here I am, 10 years later, back in another Jeep. And I had cars in between. I had that Camry, and I had a Lincoln. 2 cars I loved. I loved those cars. That Lincoln I enjoyed more than I thought I was going to, but you know, and after the wreck with that, I'm looking for a new car. And every time we passed the lot that the Grand was in, it was always there. You know, this car I looked at, boom, gone the next day. This car, boom, gone before I could look at it. The Compass, boom, gone before I could take a look at it. But this little girl was still sitting there in all her glory. And it was meant to be, right? Took it as a hint. And So it was one of those things you just kind of fall into the brand loyalty. And it just is what it is, right? You feel most comfortable sometimes in a specific vehicle or specific brand. No rhyme or reason to it, really. It's how it is. But sometimes it can be really silly, brand loyalty. Sometimes people they're very, very tribal. Very, very tribalistic. Like, for no real reason, too. And it could be silly. Ford sucks, Chevy sucks, Dodge transmission suck. Which, every brand, all American brands, European, Japanese, doesn't matter. They've all had they've all created dogs at one time or another. They've all created shit at one point or another. And every brand has created something amazing at some point or another. So that kind of blind loyalty, where if you walked up to a Dodge guy and said that Dodge transmissions of the 90s were trash, and they get mad at you, it's like, bro, love the Dodge by all means. I love some friggin', as an 80s baby, 90s kid, I love some friggin' of those Chrysler products of the 90s. But let's be realistic, realize that there's faults, you know what I mean? So, brand loyalty is great. Blind loyalty can set you up for failure. You know what I mean? Like, blind loyalty could just make you end up looking silly. So, it's just my thoughts on it. This quick little ramble. So, hope you guys have a great 2026 and catch you in the next one.